Hello, welcome to the UK Run Chat podcast. I'm Michelle, and if you're new here, this is the podcast where we explore the stories, science, and lived experiences behind running and everything that helps us run for longer and be happier. Today, we're talking about a topic that affects millions of runners, but until relatively recently hasn't been discussed nearly enough in the running world: menopause. Joining me is a familiar voice on the podcast, Dr. Juliet McGrattan. Juliet's an award-winning author, speaker, runner, and a former GP. And she has a new book out, The Runner's Guide to Menopause, which looks at both sides of the story, really, how menopause can impact your running, but also how running can be a powerful tool to support physical and mental health as well during this stage of life. So we'll be chatting all about it. And whether you're approaching menopause yourself, going through perimenopause, or supporting someone who is, perhaps you're a coach who wants to understand it more, or you just want to understand your body better as a runner, this is a really important conversation. So welcome, Juliet. Thanks for coming back onto the podcast. It's been a while since we last chatted, hasn't it?
Oh, thank you so much, Michelle. I love coming on and having a good chat with you. So yes, hello. I can't remember what it was, but yeah, a good
You
number
were
of
promoting
months.
your event with Catherine Switzer.
Oh yeah,
last
so
time we spoke.
must be last summer then. Yeah.
So it has been a while, hasn't it? And that all went well.
It went really well, thank you. Yes, it was an amazing day. Just getting the chance for so many people to hear Catherine Switzer tell her story firsthand was very special.
Yeah, fantastic. What an inspirational lady. So we're chatting about menopause today, and I'm quite excited to talk about it because I'm experiencing perimenopause at the moment, and it is having a huge impact on my running. So I'm sure there are lots of other people out there who are also feeling the same. Can we just start by kind of explaining kind of what menopause is? Maybe we should start there, because I think a lot of people still don't fully understand the terminology behind it, do they?
No, absolutely. And really, when we say menopause, we actually mean a kind of a spectrum of time, because menopause itself is one day. It's the day when you haven't had a period for 12 consecutive months. And anything before that is premenopause, and anything after that is postmenopause. Now, the perimenopause is the time leading up to that day of menopause when you start to get symptoms of the hormonal changes of menopause. But I think more generally, when we say menopause, and certainly in the book, when I say menopause, I mean kind of perimenopause through that day of menopause and into postmenopause too, because right through that time, women can experience symptoms as a result of the hormonal changes that are going on in their body.
Yeah, so really it's quite a long period of time we're talking about, isn't it? Because we can start to experience perimenopausal symptoms quite early, can't we? In our late 30s, early 40s.
I mean, they say up to about 10 years before. So the average age of menopause in the UK, anyway, is 51. So 10 years before that is 41. But it's still normal to have a menopause at 45, or if you're having an early menopause, you might have it at 40. So 10 years before that, we are into the low 30s. So, and I think most women in their mid 30s aren't really thinking that their symptoms might be in any way linked to menopause.
No. So what sort of symptoms might people be noticing first then that they might not be aware are linked to menopause?
Well, I mean, typically when you think of menopause, you think, well, your periods are changing. But actually that can be the case. But for many women, that's not the first symptom that they experience at all. And things like hot flushes that we definitely associate with menopause often come much closer to the day of menopause rather than in those early days. So for many women in those early days, it's actually mental health symptoms, things like anxiety, or even sort of palpitations, which again, you just might think, and I speak personally, I experienced a time of stress and anxiety and out of the blue, never had it before. And I thought it was all work related. I'm sure some of it was. But when I look back now, I think, oh my goodness, yeah, I was in my early 40s. I bet some of that was a hormonal menopausal change that I didn't even identify.
Yeah. So there's a lot of symptoms, isn't there, that we I think some of them we sometimes just put down to getting older, but
yeah, and that's a really important point actually, because it's really hard to determine what is aging and what is menopause. So it's very easy to either put everything down to menopause and think that you can find an easy solution with hormone therapy, when actually it's more of an age related change, and vice versa too. So it can be really tricky to work out what's what, and you may not actually ever know for lots of the
No.
symptoms.
So which symptoms? I mean, the book is absolutely, it's full of, there's a different chapter tackling a different area of the body, isn't there? It's a really good overview of everything. But which symptoms would you say tend to impact running performance the most?
When it comes to running, and this is why I was really keen to write this book, because there's so much about menopause symptoms, but when you're a runner, everything, even small things, can affect you more. And there's not generally a lot of advice about how to translate symptoms and what to do and turn it into the context of running. So as a runner myself, going through perimenopause, I suddenly became aware of all these things and thought, oh my goodness, this is awful. There has to be a solution for this. And what can I do for that? So I think in terms of running, it is very broad. Menopause can affect every system in the body. I think maybe the main ones are, firstly, mental health things.
Yeah.
So sometimes women lose motivation, lose a competitive streak, and that might just be competing against yourself for personal bests. And if you're losing motivation and you're losing that competitive drive, then that can really have a knock-on effect as to whether you can get out running in the first place.
Yeah.
And that can often really change your relationship with running and sometimes make you start to dislike it even more, or find it even harder to get out
Yeah.
of the door. So I think definitely mental health things, but also I think particularly aches and pains. I think as runners, we're sort of used to feeling a bit sore. You know, you go to bed after a long run, you get up the next day and you got a bit of aching, can't get down the stairs very well, or a bit of DOMS. But suddenly you can get that feeling almost every day in perimenopause, not for all women. Some women experience a lot of aches and pains. And even then, it's hard to make yourself think, oh, well, a run's going to make it feel better, because you genuinely feel so achy and stiff and you maybe haven't slept terribly well as a result of it. So I think probably, I mean, you could list any of them and turn them into how they affect running. But I think maybe the mental health things and just the way your body can hurt more and take longer to recover really can affect your running in perimenopause.
Yeah. So what's causing that? What's going on in the body to cause these changes then? Because it's quite dramatic in some people. I know I've had it. I feel like I've had it hard. There's probably people who have had it even worse than I have though. What's going on internally?
Yeah. So what happens in menopause and perimenopause is that the function of your ovaries is declining, and the ovaries are the main productor, is that a word, creator of estrogen and progesterone, the main two female sex hormones. And testosterone has a role in this too, but that's less important in this bit. So estrogen and progesterone levels are gradually reducing as the ovarian function declines, but they don't go down in a steady gradual way over time. They go up and down, they fluctuate. There's a bit of a roller coaster. The trend is downwards, but the ups and downs can be quite significant. And it's often the fluctuations in those hormone levels that tend to give you the symptoms. And we know that there are estrogen receptors, for example, in so many parts of our body, in our brain, in our muscles, in our tendons, in our digestive tract, all over the place. So it makes sense that if there's a change in those levels and those levels are fluctuating, that it will have an effect on anywhere that there are estrogen or progesterone receptors in the body, which is why the symptoms are so widespread. A lot of it we don't really understand because there has been a lack of research. There is a lot going on at the moment, which is brilliant to see, but we are a bit behind in terms of knowledge and how to take that knowledge and turn it into treatment options and things for women. So we are still finding out more, and there's a lot we don't understand. But I think generally the concept that these hormones are reducing, fluctuating, and they will then have a knock-on impact to areas of the body where estrogen and progesterone have a role.
Yeah, and I guess that can impact your energy levels a lot as well, can't it? Because there's a lot, your body's going through a lot. And I guess you were talking earlier about motivation declining. I remember feeling just so tired all the time.
Yeah, absolutely. And that is a big barrier for runners as well, just not having the energy. I mean, that can be a direct thing. The
Yeah,
hormonal changes themselves directly making you feel more tired, but it can also be an indirect thing because women suffer terribly with sleep problems during menopause. It's one of the most common symptoms. I think about 84% of women struggle with their sleep during this time in some form. And as a runner, obviously, sleep is really important, not just for giving you your energy, but for helping you to recover as well. So, things that might affect your sleep, it can just be, again, directly affected because of the hormonal changes. They can affect things like melatonin, which is your sleeping hormone in your brain, can affect how much of that is produced. It can also affect it if it's making you have hot flushes or night sweats. Some women are really badly affected by night sweats and wake up multiple times a night. If it affects your bladder, you need to keep getting up to have a pee. If it's making you feel achy and uncomfortable when you turn over in bed, your hip hurts and it wakes you up. So many things can indirectly affect your energy by affecting your ability to sleep.
yeah, wow. There's a lot going on there, isn't there? I think hot flushes was my first kind of clue that I might be
Mm.
entering this different stage of life, and it certainly does impact your sleep, actually.
Yeah,
So
it can, and
yeah,
I think generally for runners, body thermostat issue can be a big deal because you
yeah,
kind of get used to what that you look at previously you'd look at the weather forecast. You'd see, oh, it's 14 degrees, okay, I know I'm probably going to be okay in a t-shirt, or it's 6 degrees, I'm going to need a thermal layer. And in perimenopause and menopause, your body thermostat just becomes a bit more sensitive. The thresholds change, and it can sometimes fire off kind of inappropriately, which is why you get these symptoms like hot flushes.
yeah,
So as a runner, suddenly you just find that you can overheat quite a lot. You might just suddenly want
yeah,
to be in a vest top all the time.
yeah.
So it really, and then you get cold and you need another layer. So these kind of kit issues and what to wear can be something you've not really had to deal with before, and they can come out of nowhere.
Yeah, it's difficult and it's frustrating, isn't it? I know I'm experiencing a lot of sweating on the run at the moment, and it's
Mm.
frustrating because it's causing my skin to feel like really sensitive. But having read that chapter in your book, I'm like, oh, it's actually normal. It's not just me. So it's kind of nice to know that we can. There are things that will help with this, isn't it? And you recommend in every chapter kind of how running can help with certain symptoms.
Yeah, I just really didn't want the whole thing to be a book of moaning.
No, which it can be, can't it? I mean, we do
Yeah.
go through a lot.
Yeah, definitely. I think there are so many issues. I mean, it's really important to say that not all women are affected. Some women are absolutely fine. About 25% of women. I've yet to meet many of them, but some of them, that's what the stats say, that
Yeah,
don't have very many symptoms or have any symptoms, and, kind of go through this phase of life without too many problems and doesn't really affect their running. And that's brilliant. But I am aware that almost every female runner I speak to who's in this stage of life has something or other which is a problem. But I didn't just want to list all the problems and woe is us, and which to say, actually, you know what, there are things that you can do. They may not make things go away, but they might help them to be more manageable. And it's so important for us to keep running that we need to try and do what we can. So I wanted to come up with some ideas and solutions and practical things to try.
yeah, and it's nice. Just give us a few examples, Juliet, kind of how running can help our symptoms. Then,
Well, we know it can help sleep. We've just talked about sleep. We know, if you've had a good amount of exercise, especially if you've had exercise first thing in the morning and you've been outside in direct sunlight, that can affect your sleep. So that can help improve your sleep. So that's a really important one. We also know that although you might feel stiff and achy and sore, running and exercise in general can actually help to loosen things off. It can pump the synovial fluid around your knees to stop them feeling so kind of creaky. They say motion is lotion, and that's really true as part of this. Hot flushes, it's debatable, actually. I think the evidence is saying really that regular exercise, particularly something which is sustained and at sort of a more continuous moderate intensity can actually help to reduce hot flushes. Suddenly going out and just doing a sprint might trigger a hot flush in some women, but the evidence is really that probably if you're exercising regularly, you're likely to have fewer or less intense hot flushes, particularly if you're increasing your fitness. There are some studies that say no, so it's a bit of a that we'd still need more research on that. But that's just a few examples of how it can help.
Yeah, oh, that's reassuring to know that running can be good for us then, because it can be tempting as you feel yourself slowing down as well, and perhaps not being able to run as far. It can be tempting to say, oh, maybe that's not for me anymore. But that's reassuring to hear, actually.
Yeah, and that's so important. I think if you find that running's hard and you end up running a bit less, you can end up on this sort of downward
Yeah,
spiral of thinking, oh, well, my running doesn't really matter. It's not that, I'm not running like I used to. It doesn't count as much. It's not that important. I'll do something else. And actually, I just want to say, please stop. Just wait for a minute. Just have a think about this. Your running really, really matters, and this is a point in life where it matters more than it ever did. Even if you're only doing smaller amounts or you're not going as quickly, it actually has so much potential to help you through this phase of life, but also to kind of future proof your body for many, many years to come.
that's really important. I feel like I'm having to look at my own running differently now and not change my goals as such, but kind of change how I feel about running and what running gives me. So, like you were saying earlier, like I'm possibly not as competitive with myself anymore. Like I don't feel like I'm running for PBs now. I'm kind of running for fun and to give me a bit of enjoyment. And I think that's important, isn't it, to have maybe a shift in perception about it.
If you need it, yeah, if you
Yeah,
need it. I mean, I think there are, say, some women who are fine and still want to get better and faster. And I've tried to really make the book really inclusive of all levels. So there are some quite advanced training plans in there for women
yes,
who are okay and want to progress, etc. But I agree. For me personally, I'm similar to you. I can still see improvement, but uh, uh, that's not where my focus is now. At the moment, and I know that I'm hoping that will change, and because there is an end to this, we'll
yeah,
come out the other side. That it is much more about what do I need. Oh, actually, I need a run where I'm not focusing on what stats I'm producing and just enjoying it or going out with friends and socializing, but that I do still want to improve. So, and we know that actually if you can add some speed work into your running, that has benefits because it helps to build muscle and helps to keep all those neural pathways firing and things. So I'm trying to maybe look at my running in a way, how can I use it to help me get through this, but also to set me up for a future of great running too, when the focus maybe switches again, which I'm
yeah.
sure it will.
Yeah, I'm sure it will as well. So do runners need to change how they train during perimenopause, or does that? It obviously depends on the person, doesn't it? I guess.
Yeah, it does. But I mean, not necessarily. If everything feels good and it's suiting you and you're enjoying it and you can do it consistently, then crack on. You don't feel any pressure that you have to do this, that, and the other. I think it is important to know that there are the changes that are going on in your body. You can help to address those by approaching your running a little bit differently. But these are things that actually apply to lots of runners generally anyway. As I say, throwing in a speed session every week in the menopause context and midlife context, that is helping to preserve our fast twitch muscle fibers, the ones that produce sprinting, explosive movements, fast sprints, etc. And they're the first ones to be lost because we do lose muscle mass from about the age of 30, 35 onwards, and particularly around midlife. So by introducing a speed session, you can help to preserve those fast twitch fibers, which if you are someone who is struggling with their running performance and is getting frustrated, actually throwing in a short speed session every week could be the thing that helps you to get your running back to where you want it to.
Yeah,
Um, the other thing is to think about the slow running and to actually probably even run more slowly. And I like to think the fact that I'm slower than I have been for many years is actually my body saying, this is what you need right now. You need lots and lots of zone 2 running where you can chat and you feel really comfortable, to kind of build the mitochondria, build the engine, and to really focus on that type of running, which is actually a little bit less pressured as well. It's not only for your mental health, it's actually because it's helping whatever distance you run in the future, having that real strong base of lots and lots of zone 2 slow running will help you. So I don't think you necessarily need to change your running, but it's a good opportunity to think, what do I want to achieve and what might my body benefit from? So if you've never done any different kinds of running activities, then this is a good chance, while everything is in change,
Yeah.
to make some changes too.
Yeah, that's a good way of looking at speed work. Actually, I don't particularly enjoy speed work, but now you said it can help my muscle fibers. Maybe that's the kind of motivation I need to get out and do some.
And it's also quite a short workout,
Yeah,
which is always
yeah,
good.
over
If you,
quickly.
yeah, but it can feel quite empowering as well, just running. It kind of makes you feel a bit like, if you've never done it before, it can make you feel a bit like a child again, and kind of, when you were just used to run for the sake of it and run away from your friends and playing tig and this, that and the other. So it has health benefits as well as making you feel a little bit awesome.
That's good. So you mentioned the menopause. During perimenopause, we'll lose muscle mass. What about bone density? Can running
Yes.
help with that? Because we know it. We know we lose bone density as we get older, don't we? With the lack of estrogen, is that right?
Yeah, absolutely. So again, peak bone mass is around 30, 35, and we lose a little bit every year, and that speeds up around the time of midlife menopause, and sort of continues on. So if you do nothing, then it's likely that your muscle mass and your bone mass is going to reduce. But in terms of bones, I'm just so grateful that I'm a runner, and I'm so grateful that I've now got, how was my daughter? She's 18 now. So I've got 18 years of high impact activity under my
Yeah,
belt. And we know bones they love to be stressed. And when your foot hits the ground and a jolt goes through your bone, it makes a shudder, and that stimulates the osteoblasts, which are the cells that create new bone. So high impact activity is excellent for that. And running is perfect. It is also possible and important to improve your bone density through resistance exercises as well, because we know that when the muscle tugs on the bone, which it does via the tendon, that again stimulates bone production from the osteoblast. So a combination of the running and the strength training is really important for bone health. And also, sorry, I'm in the flow.
go for it. Yeah,
When we think about bone health, we also need to think about our potential to fracture bones.
yeah,
And as we get older, we lose balance and coordination. So if we want to look after our bone health, not just in terms of how strong the bones are, but our likelihood to falling, tripping, stumbling, etc., then we need to think about balance and coordination, and again, doing resistance work, strength exercises on one leg, to really help us to be strong and stable when we're older as well. And 1 in 2 to 1 in 3, depending on where you read it, women over 50 will fracture a bone in their remaining lifetime due to osteoporosis, which is a condition where bones are thin. So this is a huge problem,
yeah.
and as runners, we should be so glad and so grateful that we can help to reduce our risk really effectively.
Yeah, that's got to be an incentive to keep running, hasn't it? It's funny. I was talking about this with my friend this morning. I've been on a run with my friend, and both of us tripped over this week. Like she tripped over something on the ground. I managed to trip over my long jeans. You know, the long trendy jeans that are in. But both of us managed to stay upright. And we
There you
put that
go.
down to running because we've
Mm-hmm.
got that balance, haven't we? So, yeah, it's so important.
Mm.
Does injury risk increase, or is that just down to loss of balance?
Could be down to loss of balance, could be down to muscle weakness, if we're not keeping the muscles around our joints strong and stable, and potentially due to some hormonal changes as well, because ligaments, which keep our joints stable and tendons as well. Everything does change a little bit around this time, so it is possible that our injury risk can increase a little bit too. Either say from being clumsy, but also because of the musculoskeletal changes that are happening in the body.
Yeah. Okay. So you've got a whole section on strength training in the book, haven't you? If people have never
Yeah.
done any before, you kind of take them through where
Well,
to
I won't say I
start.
take them through because
Yeah.
I have got some amazing experts in this book, and I need to
Yes,
give
you
them
have.
absolute credit. So I've got Claire Clark, who's a personal trainer and strength and conditioning coach in Newcastle, and she did all the strength exercises for me because she's really. The reason I asked her was because she's a runner. So I think sometimes when we see strength training in menopause, we just see people lifting very, very heavy weights, and that there's a role, there's a place for that. But when it comes to running, it's not just about how heavy you lift. It's about using and training the right muscles that are functional for daily life, but also for your running activities. So strength training for runners can be a little bit different. So and I knew she really understood that. So that's why I asked her to do it, and she's done an amazing job. Created some workouts that we can all use.
Yeah, yeah, it's a really thorough section actually. So you've got a whole chapter on kind of how to do all the strength training exercises, and then you've got a very detailed lot of half marathon and marathon training plans in there.
So that's another expert,
Yeah,
another Clark, but they're not related. Irene Clark, who again, I knew who I wanted to write them because she really has done so much work around menopause. She's a sports scientist by background, and what because your body can change, the way that you train might have to change too for lots of women. So you need a plan which really understands that and reflects that, which is very flexible. So each run has got a priority, so that if you're not feeling good, you can figure out which run or which runs to miss sort of that week. It's got extra sort of step back weeks to allow more recovery time. It's got a mixture of different types of runs, lots of slow running, some shorter, faster interval runs, and really is a plan that or plans that work with our body at this time of life, but are also flexible enough for you to sort of change it up and change it down. So there's half marathons and marathon plans. I'd love to have put 5Ks and 10Ks and everything, but then the whole book, there's so many plans in there
yeah,
already. The whole book would have just been plans. But anyway, yes, hopefully they're going to be helpful. But they're tried and tested with many women. So yeah, I wanted something in there that, as I say, you can just moan and you can give solutions,
yeah,
but actually something practical that you can go and try.
yeah, yeah. It's brilliant. I love the section on nutrition as well because you've asked Rena McGregor, haven't you, to input into that a little bit, and she's really good at what she does. Um,
Yeah, I just wanted someone to read what I'd written, and I respect her so much.
yeah,
So a sort of a technical edit to
yeah,
make sure that what I've put was correct, and also her input actually in her own words as well. So yeah, I'm so grateful to them all. And there's a couple of others who helped. Dr. Kath Monroe read through all the HRT section because I don't prescribe anymore, and she's a British menopause specialist. And Emma Brockwell, amazing physio mom, read through all the pelvic health stuff. So yeah, I just wanted to make sure that it's such a responsibility writing a book like this when there isn't really another book out there exactly like this. I just felt such a big responsibility to get it right, and because it's lacking in evidence generally, it's harder to be absolutely certain about the rights and wrongs, and I've tried to sort of reflect that as well. So yeah, it was a challenge. I don't think I
yeah.
realized how hard it was going to be.
No, it's a really good book, Juliet. I think you've done really well with it. I've read so many books on menopause, honestly, but there's nothing there that's focused specifically on women who run. So it's really good to read. Yeah,
Yeah, when I approached the publisher, the first thing they said was, "Do you not want to write exercise and menopause?" And I just thought, no, I really don't, because for runners, I am a runner. I understand it. I don't understand open water swimming or the other things that I would have to write about if I was doing general exercise. And running, yeah, I know it. I understand it. I have the people, the community to tell me what they struggle with, and there was just so much to say about running. I couldn't possibly have included everything else as well.
So you mentioned HRT there. Can we touch on that? Because I think our kind of society's view of HRT is changing, isn't it? And it is. We went through a while where people were a bit scared of it, and now we seem to be coming out the other side. Just explain to us a little bit about the options for HRT and how that might help.
Yeah, so I think it's like you say, times have changed. When I very first started prescribing, when I was a new GP, everybody was taking it. And then there was lots of scares and everybody came off it. And now we're swinging back sort of in the other way. I think, and I've tried to sort of stick with the British Menopause Society views and guidelines with this book. I think the main thing to know is that you don't have to be absolutely on your knees before you start taking it.
Yeah.
It's not that you failed and you've had to resort to HRT. And actually, we should also realise that a lot of the talk now is about MHT, menopause hormone therapy, rather than hormone replacement therapy. But I left it as HRT because it's still in the UK, which is where most of my readers will be, is we really still use HRT more commonly. But anyway, so it doesn't have to be a last resort. It's very effective for helping to reduce symptoms, and particularly symptoms which are to do with your vasomotor symptoms, so things like hot flushes, night sweats, but also mood changes of menopause as well. So rather than reaching for antidepressants first line, if the depressive symptoms are coming from menopause symptoms, then HRT will still be first line. So, and for some women, if their menopause symptoms are really severe, they can stop them being able to run. So therefore, by using HRT to improve your symptoms, for some women that actually then makes them able to run. So as well as getting the benefits of the HRT, you're then getting the benefits of the exercise too, which are so big it's hard to measure them. So I wanted to make it clear really that it does definitely have a role, and for the majority of women it is safe. What I didn't want to say, and I didn't, because there's still a lack of definite evidence to say it can prevent this, it can prevent that, it can prevent dementia, it can this, that, because we're still, it's a little bit of an unknown. But what I do want to say is that we know that even if HRT can help to protect those things, exercise definitely does help to protect those things. So it's part of the jigsaw puzzle for lots of women. Many women don't want to take it. Many women can't take it. It's really important to know that there are different options, different alternatives. But for those that can, it can be really useful, and it can really help you to be able to continue running if your menopause symptoms are stopping you from doing so.
Yeah. And how do you know when it's time to speak to a GP about it? Like what? Like how like what do you do? What would you say to a GP if you're just thinking about it and you're not even sure if it's perimenopause? Like, where do you start?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think if you're noticing changes in your body which are new for you and are affecting your ability to live your everyday life in the way that you want to, and that includes your hobbies, affecting your sleep, affecting your work, etc., then that is a time to wonder what's going on. Because again, we shouldn't assume that everything is down to the menopause. So there might be other symptoms that you're having which are indicative of something else. Now, if you think it's just it's menopause, you don't necessarily need to see a doctor. But if you're struggling with the symptoms and they're persistent and they're affecting your everyday life, then just go and have a chat, because it is very much about being informed. It's very much about, if you want to take it, understanding what any risks or benefits for you might be, and they're very different for every woman, and just starting the conversation and finding out more so that you can really feel that you make an informed choice.
Yeah, I think that's important, isn't it? It's just kind of an information gathering exercise so that you can decide what's right for you.
Yeah, and reading as much as you can before you go, getting information from reputable places, and just not being afraid to ask and have a conversation. It's really not a taboo topic anymore, which is here anyway, which is wonderful. It still is in lots of different places, around the world, but also in the UK and different communities, etc. So just having those conversations and talking about how you feel and what the effect it's having on you is really important.
Yeah, it helps, doesn't it? So what advice would you give to somebody who's feeling frustrated because running suddenly feels harder for them if they're at this stage of life?
I'd go, oh, let's have a cup of tea and I'll tell you how it's affecting me because I'm struggling a little bit too at times. I think I would say, remember, it's not your fault. It's not because you're weak or you're not doing things right. It is the hormonal changes going on in your body. So it is not your fault. Also, remember that it doesn't go on forever. There is a light at the end of the menopause tunnel, and you will get through this. And what I do in that frame is to fill my social media feeds of women in post-menopause who are just absolutely smashing their running and enjoying life, and it makes me feel sort of more positive about it. I would say as well, um, don't minimize the effect it's having on you. If you are struggling with it, speak to other women, speak to your doctor, get help, and be proactive. The more you can find out, the more things you can try, and I think at menopause you can sort of feel like you're not in control. Your body's changing shape. Everything is sort of happening to you, and whatever you normally used to do to manage things doesn't seem to work anymore. So you can feel really out of control. So I think just taking some ownership and finding out and learning and educating yourself and trial and error is really important. But just know that it's not your fault, and you will get through. You will get through it. And if you have a good day, enjoy the good day. If it's a bad day, you just have to manage the best way you can. But get help.
Yeah. And I think, as you said earlier, it doesn't last forever, does it? That we do come out the other side of it. So what happens on the other side of menopause then, for those listening who are approaching the menopause?
Well, early post-menopause, your hormones don't suddenly, the day you reach menopause after that 12 months without a period, it doesn't suddenly, everything's perfect. It doesn't really, unfortunately, it doesn't go like that. There's still a lot of years where you may have some symptoms, and over time they will diminish and your hormones will reduce to a lower level and be in a steady state. There are other sources of estrogen and progesterone and testosterone in your body that will kick in, and will so you won't have none of those hormones, but you lose those fluctuations and that up and down. You get some fluctuation in your hormones during the menstrual cycle, and obviously you lose that when you don't have the periods, but you lose this kind of roller coaster of hormones. Everything just is much more steady. And friends I've got in postmenopause just say they just kind of wake up knowing how they're going to feel. And they're not so day to day. Is it a good day to run? Is it not a good day to run? What's my mood going to be? They just feel more stable, which is definitely something to look forward to.
Definitely. Oh, well, thank you, Juliet. That's been really eye-opening, and the book is brilliant. It's out on the 26th of March, isn't it? It's called The Runner's Guide to Menopause. So if you are listening and think it might be helpful, then do check it out. What I really love about it is that it doesn't tell women to stop running or lower our expectations. It just tells us we might need to adapt a little bit for a short time. But it's brilliant. So thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you so much for letting me talk about it, and I really genuinely hope that it is helpful. And there is an audiobook too, so maybe I can run with you while you're listening.
Oh, well, there we go.
Love that.
Yeah, let us know if you're listening to Juliet narrating her latest book. So if today's conversation resonated with you, please do share it with your friends. And as always, if you enjoyed this episode, then do let us know. Conversations like this, we hope, help make running more supportive and a more informed space for everybody. Thank you for listening. It's been the UK Run Chat podcast, and I'll see you on the next episode.